I did a poll yesterday, and I was curious to know what people are struggling with most right now. And I put three options: moving off the sofa, your food at home, or socializing, managing your eating when socializing. And unsurprisingly, 75% claimed that their biggest struggle right now is eating out when socializing and being able to control themselves, make the right choices, and thinking that that's what's sabotaging them from making the progress that they want to with their body composition. What do you guys think?
Well, even though the poll may be correct, maybe people do feel that way. The stats actually tell a different story, and they say that people are most likely to mess things up when they're at home versus when they're out, which is quite interesting. I think there could be many factors here. Most people, when they're out, they want to put on maybe a fake face, or to be the healthy person in the group, which is great. I think people should start working towards that identity more so. But when people get home and when no one's around, no one's looking, I think that is when people that's when people seem to go wrong a lot of the time. So yeah, most of the adherence problems actually does seem to stem at home, but that's not to say that it can be a struggle to eat out and socialize properly as well.
Just to challenge that, if people are like eating out, say 3-4 times a week, is an element of caloric control the potential issue there?
I would say no, because again, if you have the underpinning education on, obviously, with food choices and what to do and what to select, I don't think it's too much of an issue. I think if you are eating out 3-4 times a week, yes, your calories may be a little bit off here and there, but I still think you should be able to stay within a ballpark to keep you moving in the right direction. But the more times you eat out, the more variables you throw into the mix, I do think it makes it harder for most people to adhere and especially stick to a fat loss regimen.
One thing you said there was that if they have an underpinning of education, if it's early on in the journey, for most people probably listening, is that really the case? Like, are they going to have that educational awareness of,
No.
what 500 calories actually is? Because for the most part, like if you're 50, 60, 70 kilos, you're probably not having more than 500-600 calories per meal, right? It could, can you get the awareness to like have 500-600 calories only at a restaurant when that could potentially be covered off just in starters, or even just before that,
or even the salad that's sold there as well, So I think it can be really, really hard, and this is one of the reasons why, if you're first starting out and you're trying to make a big change in your life, like one of the things that we recommend is potentially minimizing these social situations as much as you can. And if that is not possible due to business stuff, or it's part of your work, we completely get that, but you should still find ways to work around that. But if that's not the case, just because someone asks you to go out on a Tuesday night doesn't mean you have to, right? Again, part of this whole identity shift and being that person that you want to be later down the line is being able to say no to some things. You don't have to say yes to every social outing. Now, this is not to say that this is going to be a forever thing, but again, if you're just starting, you have very low nutritional literacy, you don't understand things to the degree that you may need to be able to make these good decisions, one of the best things you can do is just automate the whole process and, get a bunch of experts to be like, hey, just do this, do this, do this. And then as you learn and get better, you'll have more education to actually go out, make sensible choices and stay on plan and not sabotage your results.
Someone sent me sorry, before you go ahead, someone said, you can potentially answer this question. Someone sent me a message or an email saying I said, look, you just need to say no more. You need to, say no to a couple of events, or, pick the menu beforehand. And he said, dude, when I'm in that situation, it's not even the pressure. I feel like I'm missing out, or I feel like, the temptation just gets too much, or, once I have a little bit, I just can't control it. And then, I might have a bit more. And then when I get home, I'll have more. And, that's probably where the home thing kicks in, right? Because you come home and you're like, screw it, I'll just carry on. And, I was saying like, this, and he was just coming back with those reasons as well. And obviously there's an element of like, how bad do you want it? We can use that card, but there's also an element of like, how do you get out of that I mean, this is the age-old question we're going to be answering when we're 80 years old, right? But it's the how do we, you're in that situation and you're around all these things, because that is real life for most people, right? For nearly everyone. What is the solution there? Go on, Ed.
For me, that's something I can 100% relate to. I was definitely in that boat for sure for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to accepting whatever you do in life, you miss out on something else. I think every choice in your life is a trade-off, and whatever you do, you're missing out on something else. I'm sitting here with you guys right now. I'm not at Ocean Beach in Ibiza going mental. You know, like you make a choice. You can't be everywhere. You can't do everything, and that's going to be the same when it comes to how you socialize. Like, even if
very grateful for your presence.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking right now, why am I not in a pool party? But you know, you can go out and drink loads of alcohol, whatever pluses that gives you, whether it's like really fun at the time, more confidence, chatting to people at the bar, whatever it is. The really obvious consequence is then, well, the next day you're going to wake up feeling awful. But then I think that's where almost most of our like conscious action and consequence gets shut off. But really, if you open it up and you dive in a bit deeper, it's like, okay, so say this meal, you go out, you feel like you're missing out if you're not having a burger and chips, you're having a salad instead. Like, yeah, I personally would rather eat a burger and chips than a salad. It's probably gonna be tastier. But is that like elevation in taste for that 15-minute period it takes to eat a burger? Like, if I eat a burger, it's not lasting like 30 minutes, you know.
5 minutes.
Is like, that is nicer than a salad. But then is that slight increase in nice taste, does that outweigh negatively affecting your body composition goals, maybe going to bed a bit bloated that night, whatever it is? I mean, even if it is just your health and fitness goals, like if they're really important to you, having a slightly tastier dinner may or may not be worth it. And then I think you can also then look at, can you still get everything else you want out of that meal? Like, unless you've gone purely for the burger and chips, I assume he's gone there to see his friends as well. So, you know, you can still get all of that social side of it. And I know, because I've been in those shoes, it's way easier to say rationally than actually implement.
Yeah.
But I think the more conscious you can make of this trading, and I think this is actually one of the biggest things, if you can get your head around the whole transformation, is everything's a choice, everything's a trade-off. And the more you can be aware of what you're getting and losing out of on that trade-off for everything, when you're doing your training, with all the areas of life, I feel like that's been one of the biggest game changers for me. It's just having really big clarity. And that then has allowed me to live more in line with my priorities than I ever have before in the past, just because I'm so aware of what the trade-offs are.
How do you keep that awareness really high? Because, for example, if I just carry on this story with this exchange that we're having, I said, all right, so what's the reason you're doing this? And, you know, he listed out all the reasons, all sounded amazing. You know, want to be there for my daughter, want to be energetic, play with them, etc. And all sounded great on paper. But he said in that moment, it's very, I find it really difficult. He's like, I know who I want to be and all these things. You're saying all the right things, right? So the question here is like, and this would be good to get your experience, like how do you keep that awareness of these high values, high priorities of yours top of mind, no matter what situation you're in? You know, have you got these tattooed on your wrist? Have you, like, you know, what's the thought process on that? Because I think that's key.
Because it's a good question. Do you want to go, Ed? You go, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I literally just think about these things a lot. They're in my mind quite often. Like, if I'm on a run, and you know, I find running harder than training in terms of like in the moment, you're continuous there, you can't stop. You know, like you do a hard set in the gym, it's 40 seconds, then you stop. So you're doing an hour run, it's like 20 minutes in, you've got to just keep doing it. You can't stop that set until like say an hour. But then I think about, I guess what you can say, someone just like your heaven and your hell. Normally I think more about the hell, but like, so the heaven is like what you want. So I don't know, let's say you're training for a certain race or you want to hit a certain PB, blah, blah. But and I think maybe which one you gravitate to more is probably going to be dependent on maybe your personality type. But as my son's got a bit older, he's become a lot more of maybe like a why for me. And I think when, going a little bit of a tangent, when you're at kid stuff, where it's the playground or stuff, a lot of it is them playing, you're kind of waiting around. You do quite a lot of people watching. Now, it's not all like really judgmental, but you notice some people, even just like, oh, they're parenting a certain way, you might be like, oh, that's really good, or maybe you don't think it's that good, or whatever. You're just noticing a lot of people. And my hell is what I see a lot in the playground is like, I see dads who can't play with their kids, or like they get stuck at the top of a climbing frame and they either can't get them out. I was telling you, Ivan, the other, like, it was a little couple of months ago now, but like my son went up this climbing frame thing and he wanted to go across this little ladder thing, or this little beam that you've got like tightrope across, and like it's got to be like 7 foot in the air. So like if you fall, you're pretty screwed. So I was like going to go round, but I'd have had to have, the way it's set is I'd have to have like let go of him and gone around the other side to then be in a position to be able to like stay with him. He wasn't going to wait for me. So in the end, I had one hand on him. I had to mount this playground thing with the other hand. And afterwards, this wasn't like an arrogant way. I was like, looked around, I was pretty sweaty and a bit embarrassed. But afterwards, I was like, you know what? I don't think any other parent in it could have done that. And I don't know what I'd have done. Like I was sweating and a bit panicky. But then when I see other people, like they either just don't let their kids do certain stuff, or what I see is just, I feel, and this, I just don't want to sound patronizing, but I just feel sorry for people when they're doing this. They're like picking their hands up, but then they're also like trying to pull their t-shirt down because their belly's sticking out of their top and all of these things. I just think, you know what, like they're probably great parents, but like, so it's not judging them on that aspect. But it's like, for me, it just reminds me of, you know what, actually I can enjoy so much more stuff with my son just because I can do these things with him. If he's on the soft play on his own, he's getting bored, there's no other kids in there, I can jump in and go and play with him in there. Like other parents just probably they're just not fit enough to do it.
What was the transition for you on this? Like, what was you say you right now, it's sort of like, you think about this a lot and it's in your head pretty much all day long. What was the early stages of this? If you remember this.
When he was first born, there was it didn't change anything for me, because although we had him, like you love him, it's like they're just like a blob that just like cries, eats, shits, repeats, you know, like they don't like, you love them, but like as they grow into like an actual person, I think you're maybe as a dad more as well, because I think maybe it starts earlier with mums generally more, but like your relationship goes, but also once they're more of a person, it's like they can actually do more stuff. You want to let them, you know, like the first time they climb a certain climbing frame, you're like, oh yes, he's doing that, you know, like, oh, he's up on like the red one now, and like, you know, like I get probably more pumped than probably I should, you know, but I think, and then that, as he's become more of like maybe like a person, I think that's definitely, I'd say over the last year or so, is now quite a big factor actually now for me.
What about the process of like keeping it top of mind?
It's what I think about, to be honest. Like say when the run gets hard, that's what I think of. When I'm setting up for a set, sometimes depending on like how up for it I am that day, I'll go more hard or less, but sometimes I'll say to myself, you know, like, do you want your set, is your son's dad a little bitch kind of thing, or like imagine it's getting filmed, if my son sees this in 16 years, is he going to think his dad's a little pussy? Like that's what I sometimes say to my head before I do a set on leg press or something. Like I've
done some of that sort of visualization. It's not pretty, is it? Yeah, that's interesting.
But I think going back to the original point is maybe just like keeping it front of mind more often. But I think initially just going really black and white with it, because I think everyone's so grey with these things. Like, oh, I know, but I do love, I do want to be there. In my head, I would put it as like, if the example was like, I want to be there for my daughter, whatever, it's like, do I want to be there for my daughter, or do I want this burger? Now, in reality, is eating that burger is not just going to kill you like that. But that's how cutthroat I would be in my head about it.
It's a signal, isn't it?
It's you know, what is it actually? Because actually going against the actions that are going to allow you to be there for longer for your daughter, you're going the other way. So that's like,
if you do one thing, if you have that burger, you're basically telling yourself that your daughter's not important. If that's the way you're positioning your why, right?
Yeah. And the reality is it's not quite that cutthroat, but that's how I would personally view it in my head. Like I try and view things quite like that, or maybe not try, but I do. Maybe it's good and sometimes not, but I think it makes it very clear in my head when I'm doing something, what I'm winning, what I'm losing. And then I think when those are really clear, you can make your really well informed decisions.
I think this is where like personal development and you know, we talked before, like what mindfulness is missing. And this is where like personal development, I think, goes wrong, because there's no like tangible actions on what you say. And a lot of this, like, you know, discovering a why and all these things can feel quite wishy-washy and grey, as you said. And the only way you can really back up that why is if your actions relate to it. And I think that's why we've always found body transformation to be so powerful for this medium of like, what is actually important to you. I think the other thing is people don't actually spend the time to think about what is really important to them. And a lot of it is just sort of like what I think is important or what I think it should be. Like using the child one. I've not got kids, so I can't comment too like in depth on it, but it's more just like, the idea of like, my why is my kid is a very like, it's almost like the one you should have. It's the why you should have.
Everyone says family, health, work. That's the top three. Everyone's, you know what I mean? It's like,
but then they don't get more specific than that, right?
They do.
So like, for example, with health, mine is like, it's physical fitness in the gym. Like that's my thing. Or like with when people say like relationships are important to me, the reality is like you probably have one or two people you actually really have as your sort of why, your anchor, that you really enjoy, or less than 5. I think you just got to be really specific.
Yeah, I think people say these things because everyone else says them, and I honestly think that I've been a lot of thinking about the identity stuff this week, especially. And why so many people go wrong is because they'll come in and they'll say all these beautiful things and these amazing things, but when the rubber meets the road, or what's the right word, where the rubber hits the road, whatever it is,
or wherever there's
wherever there is friction. Now I've always said this, you can always tell how strong someone's 3 S's are when when the shit hits the fan. Like, what do you do when things go wrong, right? So you can say all these great things, when you're pumped, or when you see like an RNT video and you're like, whoa, awesome. And all these thoughts go through your mind. You get this huge pump up. You say, I'm going to do this for my daughter. I can do this. But then you get to the restaurant and you're, oh, nah, it's, I can't control. I'll worry about it tomorrow. Exactly right. And this is what's been puzzling me for a while, because we hear people talk, come to us with huge whys, huge reasons to change. Literally, if you don't change, you're going to die. They've been told that. But the thing is, they say these things, and they may believe these things, and they may value these things to some degree, but they don't believe them enough to take proper action on them, if that makes sense. And they don't take the action when it's required the most. You know what I mean? And again, I think these things do take time. And if we're going back to that example, if this person's just started their journey and they're quite fresh, I think this is very common. I think people are not clear on their why. They're not clear on their actual values. And if you're not clear on those things, trying to make a body transformation is really, really difficult, because you're always going to be running into a brick wall. You say this, but you do this. You're acting you're not being congruent with your values, beliefs, and actions. So
that's how you lose confidence.
Something's got to be wrong.
And that's how you lose confidence in yourself, because you're like, when people start doubting themselves, oh, can I actually do this? Because, you've committed to all these things, but you actually don't follow through. And there's that, I can't remember there's a circle, isn't it? It's like the actually take, or what you want to do, and the actually take. And every time you miss that circle or whatever, you're actually lowering your self-esteem, you're lowering your confidence. Then you start doubting things in your life, because, I can't really do that. I can't even do this one thing. We've got an email actually going out tomorrow, inspired by something you guys said, where it's going out to our members, and it was around like, what's the one reason people don't hit their checkpoint or stay in shape? And it's like, when life gets hard. You guys said to me, when life gets hard, you just quit. And I said, like, there's always going to be socials, travel, meetings, all these, like, there's always something, right? And I think that's why accountability, community, education, identity, and all these factors are so important. And being able to share that journey with like-minded people, and being open with experts who've been there and done that. For example, like today, I was looking at my diary this morning. I was like, God, this is a big day. Like, I've got 11 till 7 non-stop meetings except for 1 hour. I was like, this is going to be like, I need to, like, and I've got some deep work to do in the morning, and I've got to fit in my training. I was like, I don't want to sacrifice the training, and I don't want to make, I've just got to re-navigate all my meal times. So what I did is just like the night before, I was like, just analyzing, right, what time I'm going to eat, what time I'm going to prep this food, who do I need to contact at this time? What am I going to do? What time am I going to go to the gym? How am I going to get my steps in? I was planning all these things beforehand, so that when the day happens, firstly, I don't need to think about that. But secondly, I know there's a way around it, because there's always a way around it, right? It's like, and I've managed to do it so that I don't actually have to go for a walk in the evening. So it's perfectly done. But that obviously takes time because it's now an identity for me and it's a high value priority. Feels if it wasn't a value priority, I'd have been like, oh, no, I'll just train tomorrow. Then that would have pushed all the sessions back, and then that would have dampened my self-esteem to think, oh, actually, when things get difficult, what do? Just give up my training, or just give up my steps, or I just eat fast food because it's easier.
Yeah, but again, these things take a lot of time to develop. You know, I mean, it's probably taken a very long time for that to become automatic. You know, where just because you have a busy day, you're not going to be like, oh, I have a busy day, I'm not going to train, because in your mind, and I'm sure all of us think the same. No, because it's busy, we are going to train.
Yeah,
because we know we're going to handle the day so much more effectively when we train, and that's a complete shift, right? You know that session is going to allow you to be your best for the rest of the day. Where others are, if you're just starting, any sort of mishap or any sort of timing irregularity, you're going to be like, oh, no, I'm going to skip training, because at that time maybe it's not a high value for you. And it's not part of your identity yet.
Have you ever heard that quote of like, this is like related to meditation? It's like, if you haven't got time to do 10 minutes of meditation, you need to do 60 minutes of meditation or something like that. Like, and the concept is great. I think it's really good. And that, what you said there, I literally thought about it this morning. I was like, well, so I can't go into my usual slot of training. I could probably do with this extra hour and a half on the laptop working, but I know if I don't train today, my head's going to be all over the place. And I'm just not going to feel like that. You just need to clear them. You need to clear your mind, right? It's not going to be clear going into this. And if I'm going to be at my best for all these meetings, first, I don't know why when you just accumulate these meetings and then you look at it like, how did that even happen? That's what I ended up yesterday. But that was the thought process going on in my head. And I'm sure you guys are pretty similar. And this is why it takes 3 years to build a lifestyle solution. And this is why, if you want to make this a permanent solution, it doesn't happen by accident. You have to actually put in the work all the time, every single day. It's pretty much 24/7, right? Every choice is going to make a difference. Oh, am I going to take the bus or am I going to go walk it? Exactly. Am I going to climb the escalators, or like Janny knows, I never stand on an escalator in the tube. I don't know about you guys, but I just find it really weird to stand on an escalator. When you just stand there.
When we're in London, I got the tube last Sunday.
Yeah.
I was going up them, not breathing through my mouth, just seeing how fast I could go before I had to breathe through my mouth.
It's honestly baffles me. I was like, why do people, the other one is like, in airports, they have that glide, it's
the worst.
What is that thing? I don't know what they call it. It's basically an elevator, but it's a horizontal one. It allows you to go quicker. And if you actually walk next to someone who's on there, you actually go quicker walking it, because you can't actually walk on that one because everyone's just clogging the whole thing. Yeah, but these little things, they add up a lot. I think we talk about NEAT being a key driver of like caloric burn.
But even outside of just the expenditure or Ed wanting to improve his fitness, it's more of it's more of the mindset. The natural mindset is to do the harder thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I think that's what also we have inbuilt in us. And it just, as you were speaking then, AB, like you have this massive day, a lot to you have a busy day, but you're not like scared of that busy day. You're sort of like, no, I want this busy day. I want this discomfort in my life because I know it makes me better. And I think all of us are the same. We can't be on holiday mode for too long, because for us to enjoy holiday mode, we need to work. Do you know what I mean? We need to do something. We need to be productive. We need to get uncomfortable so then we can appreciate being comfortable. I think too many people, especially when they come within our circle, haven't been with us for a while, they come in always seeking pleasure, always just, dopamine fix, or, everything, social media, this and that. They want that easy option all the time. Go back to the example of, but when I go out, I'm so tempted. It's like, well, okay, well, you need to get used to doing hard things as well. Part of this process is doing hard things. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that also builds character, and that builds confidence, that builds momentum into all other areas. We've always said that the physical is the vehicle. And again, we use that avenue for transformation to help with all these other areas. We've never claimed to be like psychiatrists or even worse, like life coaches. You know what I mean? We use the physical. That's what we specialize in. We get you into the best shape possible, so then you can do all these other things that you want to do. But yeah, I think a part of that also comes with wanting to do difficult things and embracing that, which I also think is hard. it's hard for a lot of people to grasp initially.
Well, one thing that may resonate with a lot of the audience is if you've progressed in your career and you've done a lot of hard work in your careers, you put in the hours, you can use that as a framework to apply to your physical. It was something I didn't even think of until the 5-year party, Bridge, one of our long-term members, said to me, you guys talk about physical helps your sort of work and your performance with your career. He's like, what I did to just frame this whole thing was just like, look, I've worked my bollocks off at building my career. I'm just going to apply the same mentality that I needed to do to progress in my career, to put the hours in, and just do the same with fitness. And he said, what that's done, that same mentality applied to fitness has got him the result he wanted. And now he's using the physical as a vehicle, in the other way around, and both feed each other in that he actually works less now because he's more productive and he's more structured. And I think that might be a useful way to think about it, because if you've had some level of success in your career, but you've fallen out of shape, you've obviously know how to work hard. You just haven't yet maybe seen the link in that you can do that with your fitness. There's just more things to consider.
100%. But also on that note, we work with a lot of medical professionals, you know what I mean? And we know that medical professionals are very intelligent people, and they've put in the hard yards to get to where they are. You know what I mean? There's no doubting that you've gone through med school, you have done something extremely challenging and difficult, so there's the capacity to do hard things is there when the value and belief is there, right? When you truly value something, you've proven to yourself, I can work hard when I want to. And I think using that same energy can definitely be transferred into your fitness journey and vice versa.
At the same time, I think it's never been harder than it is right now to go against all the dopamine hits and instant gratification. It's literally never been harder, and it's getting harder every single time. Even though the fitness industry is growing, the obesity crisis is growing faster. And it doesn't surprise me. We've spoken about this on a previous podcast thing, but the access to fast food and the access to convenience is growing at a rapid rate, and that's going to make things naturally harder. Like it's so tempting to be like, oh, I'll do 15 minutes extra work and I'll just take a cab instead of walking to the station. Like those little actions make a big difference. Or that 10 minutes cooking, I can save some time by just ordering it in, or I just have a quick bar or something like that. It's just convenience is growing at such a rapid rate, and we've almost got to fight it constantly. And even people having great even though we having great identities, we're probably still like at a level of we still have to make those choices, right? Of what are we going to do? The planning element still needs to be there, because it's just getting harder and harder and harder. Getting bombarded more.
Yeah, I was listening to this psychotherapist who also specializes in a lot of this dopamine stuff, and she was saying she just wanted to take note of how many times she was cued to eat in one day. And I think she counted over 150 cues throughout the day to eat something, whether it was a commercial on the TV, whether it was a commercial in her car driving, whether it was just walking to the store, walking down the street, 150 cues across the day to eat.
And then by that 130th, you're like, I need to give in. Yeah, you're going to give in, right?
As well. Yeah. So that again, as you said, I 100% agree. It's never been harder. Honestly, this is insane how we aren't all obese, to be honest. You know what I mean? So there are so many things fighting against you to succeed, right? Which is why.
I mean, I don't know if go on.
No, you go.
Go.
You should have a bunch of experts helping you through this journey,
Yeah, because you don't want to think about this. You want to be able to just at the beginning just execute. But I was going to say, if you're always, for example, and I'd be curious to know what the research is on this, because I'm sure there is if you're early on in the day and you're on social media and or email or Slack or whatever, and you're getting hammered by reactive dopamine hits and back and forth conversations, surely the more you deplete there, the harder it is to make those decisions in the evening. We talk about decision fatigue, but there's probably an element of even those things are micro decisions that depletes your cognitive capacity and your ability to make good decisions, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So if you think about how that's getting higher and higher, for example, I don't know if I've logged into it once and I've never done it again, right? So I logged into TikTok once a couple of months ago. I wanted to see what this thing's about. So I logged into it and I was like, blimey, this thing is this thing's like Instagram on steroids, right? It's literally just a minefield. I was like, I'm not going in there again. But that's the next level of where this social media and dopamine is being taken to. So can you imagine if you're getting, if you're just say, like most people just sitting there scrolling all day long, by the time you get to 7 p.m., there's no surprise you're reaching for the bread bar, you're reaching the biscuit tins, because you've literally zapped, you're drained. When you're tired, the last thing you want to do is cook chicken and broccoli. It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah, on that same therapist, this is a really good podcast actually. She was saying that social media or platforms like Instagram and Facebook, they've literally made relationships like a drug, right? So what they've done is they've given us the ability to socialize without the actual work to go see people. They've taken out the middleman, right? So we feel like we're socializing, and because as humans, we actually do get a dopamine hit from seeing people, being with people. And that is another reason why social media is so powerful. You can be scrolling, oh, look what my friend's doing, look what my friend's doing, but you're not actually putting in the effort to get that reward of socializing, which is really interesting way to frame it, So they've turned socialization into a drug now. They've done the same thing with food. You don't have to work for your food anymore. For the amount you could get 2,000 calories by just a click of the dial. Someone delivers 2,000 calories to your door. When back in the day, you had to hunt for hours to find 2,000 calories,
Well, just on that, it's not only social media, but if you think about, if you're in a job you don't like, or you're doing things you don't like doing, you're doing things that drain you, you can't be asked to talk to your partner, you got your partner pissing you off around the fact that you're not eating the same meals as she is or he is, all these factors just drain you, right? And when you're drained, I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing, it kind of comes back to what Ed said about knowing priorities, values, and what makes you feel good. When you don't know what makes you feel good, and most of the day you're just doing stuff that zaps you of energy, it's hard. We've all had those days where we've just done a bunch of admin tasks. For me, admin is the worst thing I could think of. Admin tasks. And by the end of it, you're just drained. You're like, you know what? I can't be asked to do anything. And in that moment, let's say for example, you've only done 5,000 steps and you got hit 10,000, but you're so mentally drained from the day. It takes a lot to think, I'm just going to override all that inertia to go out and do those steps. As a random example.
And I'm very glad you said that, because that is 100% true, right? We never get ego depletion when we're doing things we love. You know what I mean? It's not a thing.
What do you call it? Ego depletion?
As in what you were saying earlier, decision fatigue. You're doing all this mentally challenge. You get mentally bored, right? You get mentally bored. The thing is, but when you're doing tasks you actually enjoy, you don't experience that drop in willpower. If you're doing something you love all day and you get to the evening, you're more likely to make a better decision, even though you've put in the same hours of work, so to speak.
For example, I can go to if I go to a family event, right? So go to a family event that is not my very immediate. I can say, let's say it's a family event. I'll be thinking about when my meal is. I'll be thinking about what diet drinks I can have so I can just keep something in my mouth. The sorts of distractions, and suddenly but I could be at I don't know, the Void Workshop, for example. I didn't eat till 2 p.m. because I was just I was engrossed in the whole event. Yep. But I can be at a family event, one of those typical big birthday events, and I'm literally just clock watching. I'm thinking about when my next meal is. I'm thinking about all these, and it's crazy how that works, right? And this is for someone who kind of has.
You're aware of it. You know what's happening,
right? But you can just imagine you're in a situation where you can't be asked to be with these people. You don't really enjoy the event. You're just gonna be next to the snack bar hammering the food, because it keeps you occupied and it gives that dopamine that you're not getting from the socializing, because you can't be asked to talk to these people.
Yeah, so true.
That's a big one, actually. That's what I'm
just thinking, I hope too many of your family aren't listening to this one.
Yeah.
What do you mean? The weather conversation is super exciting.
Honestly.
Yeah,
I think though that as much as that's all valid, and it's definitely getting harder, although maybe people 3,000, I don't know, a few hundred years ago would argue that, but in the day, unless you're actually going to change it, unless you're going to buy Instagram or do anything like that,
it's not going to change it.
It's like complaining that the earth's not flat. You can cry about it all day, but what are you going to do? And the reality is there's a lot still in your control. And I think it all just comes back to what we said before about the identity thing. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's okay. We've got all these food cues around whatever. Well, if you identify as someone who isn't just going to order a delivery when they feel a bit tired, you're not going to do it. If you're halfway through a run and you know, for me, unless I had to because of injury, I wouldn't allow myself to stop, because the fear of being someone who stops is worse than any pain in the actual run.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of thing. When the alarm goes off in the morning, you know, I wouldn't even consider snoozing an option. And I'm not saying I'm this perfect person, but like just a few examples of like, that's not an option to you. You're not going to do it. And that doesn't just happen like overnight. I think it happens from a lot of mini wins. So like the things you said, where if you fail, sometimes it will send you the wrong way. But if you just really go in and commit, you will accumulate these mini wins that then show you, actually, I can do this. Actually, I can do this. And it may even be like only having a Diet Coke when you go out to one of these events. You're like, actually, I could actually do that and just not drink. Or maybe it's just you only ordered a main course the first time. You're like, actually, I don't have to just do it. And you suddenly think stuff that we think is just like obvious, or that we would do without thinking, just seems mental and like you just couldn't even imagine. I think the other part of it is being around other people with higher standards, because I think the standards is linked in with the whole identity thing. Like, what standards you hold yourself accountable to? And like, yeah, the world's getting harder, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, what's really happening is the standards of the average person, it's just dropping and dropping and dropping. Yeah. And, you know, that's, again, a big driver for me. Like, when you look around, I'm not trying to be like an arsehole to be weird, but like the thought of having the average person standards is just like, that's a huge driver for me. Like, I just do not want to hold myself to those standards. And, you know, if you're successful at work or something, you've held yourself to higher standards. That's like, a lot of people can relate to that on certain levels. But then if you can get yourself in a community, obviously, like, you know, I'm on this call with you guys, but same as if you're in one of our cohorts, or even just in the wider community interacting, like your norms change. And once your norms change, it becomes like totally different. Like I bumped into someone on the high street the other day, and we were chatting about this fish and chip shop. Like the line was going out the thing or something, and I was like, oh yeah, it looks quite nice in there. She just thought it was mental that I'd lived in where I live now for 2 years and hadn't. She's like, what, do you not get fish and chips much? I was like, I literally couldn't remember the last time. And it's not, I actually like fish. It's not like I've got anything against, like, if you have it now and then, it's not the end of the world. But it's just like her social norm is you have fish and chips like once a week. But it's like, if your norm is that takeaways, you have them like you don't, takeaway isn't like a weekly occurrence. Yeah. I don't feel restricted. It's just not what you don't associate with doing that every week. You know, if you think going out and getting pissed 3 times a week is normal, it's just different to if actually, no, I go for a few drinks here and there or whatever it is.
Your environment dictates your performance, and it's an absolute no-brainer to be around people who are like-minded. So as much as we try to, you know, we gave people a bit of a sort of give them a little bit of a woolly blanket around them. But I think they just pull that blanket and throw it in the bin for the right reason as well. Because yes, it might be getting harder, and we put all those things as like, but at the same time, there's never been a bigger opportunity to be a high performer and to actually make a difference in as well, because you can effectively be the leader of your circles, and you can effectively push forwards and create something amazing like we're doing. Or you can just sort of just sit there scrolling all day on Instagram. And I think this is, again, comes down to your rules and your standards. Are you going to be that person who depletes their willpower by 7 a.m. because you've already hit the bottom of your newsfeed? Or are you going to be the person who says, I'm going to have a rule that I don't go on social media until I've done my work, or whatever that may be. And you set those standards for yourself. And I think that's the way you have to beat the game, because like you said, no one's buying, unless you're buying from Instagram. Is that going to change?
Yeah.
I mean, who's that girl, Ivan, you know, the one who escaped North Korea, and then she lives in America now. She sent that book out. She's done a few interviews.
Kim Park, maybe. I think that's her last name.
She was like laughing about like how mental it is that people are complaining there's too much food in America. Yeah. But she's like, where I came from, people were like literally dying of starvation. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's so hard, but like, are you really complaining there's too much food on the table, you know? Like,
yeah. Her name's Yeonmi Park. That was the one. And it's crazy when you listen to her story and you listen to what she had to go through and what how they live day to day. It really puts things into perspective, right? And
it all comes down to what you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like, as much as I started this conversation with that example, because I think it's a good example for almost people to hear. Like, sometimes it's just BS. Like, it's honestly, it just needs, like, you just need to just pull your finger out and just do it. You can write why your why is your daughter, and I'm bringing back to that as well, because this is what was literally being written. But then it counteracted. She was like, yeah, my why is my daughter. I want to grow up and see her and all these sorts of things. But it's like, but I can't help myself at the table. So well, then it's clearly not your why. It doesn't make sense, right?
Or it is a why, but you just haven't connected those two things up enough yet. You haven't seen that this is directly impacting this. Because I think once that connection is just really crystal clear, it's really easy then just to do, not really easy, but it becomes a lot easier to then start seeing these trade-offs.
Yeah. Start those small wins and give yourself at least 3 years and you'll be a new person on the other side. As long as you couple that with the right education, the right community, the right accountability, the right expert coaching, the right blueprint, proven blueprint, and you'll be well on your way to success. If you're wondering what that is, then it's RNT Fitness. And if you're wondering how to take that next step, then just click the link in the show notes, book a call with our enrollment coach, and let us handle the rest. Any final notes?
That was a good way to end it.
Fantastic.